Hey, what is going on, everybody out there? This is Jakejames Lugo. Welcome to the channel and welcome to this brand new JJ's One Man podcast. Hopefully, everybody out there now has been enjoying some games. There's a lot of stuff to play right now between all the new releases over the last couple weeks, and including most recently with The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom on Nintendo Switch. That literally came out like not even a couple of days ago, or close to about a week ago, I want to say. People have been playing it, people have been enjoying it. I've had my own thoughts and opinions about Zelda in general between Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, but I don't begrudge anybody going in and enjoying that game. There's a lot to play right now, and there's been a lot to play over the last couple of months, which is going to directly tie into the point that we're going to kind of get into here. But one of the things that I want to start off with and saying is that I decided personally for me, I'm going to skip over The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. Not because I think that the game looks terrible, the game looks garbage or anything like that. Again, I've had my own thoughts and opinions about current Zelda and stuff, but really it was a personal choice by me to decide to skip over it to get a little bit of downtime in between releases because as many of you have been seeing both on the channel and also if you've been following me on social media like places like Twitter, I've been playing a lot of games. I've been playing a lot of games, probably more than the average person, probably more than most other media people or content creators out there, because a lot of the time, most people, they end up playing certain games and sticking with it for a good extensive period. But with me, I not only play games, especially longer games, but I also have to play a great variety of them between making reviews, either written or video, or being able to talk about games on podcasts and stuff. I play a lot. Bottom line, there's a lot of things to play even right now. Over the last couple of weeks, I've just gotten into Star Wars Jedi Survivor, which I was looking forward to for a very long time. In the midst of that, and even before I finished it, I got into Redfall, which was on Xbox Game Pass, which to me, Redfall is the worst game release of 2023 thus far. There's more games to come out for the rest of the year, so who knows, we might get another stinker over the course of the next couple of months, towards the later half of the 2023, but still. That, for me, is my personal pick of like the worst game of the year, and it shows still because a lot of people are really down about that game. I think that when I wrote a review about Redfall on Clownfish TV, I think I either gave it a 4 out of 10, or a 3 out of 10. I don't remember exactly. I have to go back and look, but I know I scored that game as very bad because it was really bad. But my point is that even in the midst of all that stuff, there's been a lot of releases I've been tackling. So if I'm able to decide if I want to skip over a certain release, it should be totally fine. And it shouldn't impact not only my credibility, but also my ability just to talk about games in general. A lot of people, for the current moment anyway, especially after some of those reviews came out, a lot of people are feeling and they're calling right now that The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom is the game of the year for 2023. I think it's way too early and way too premature to make a judgment call like that, especially when we're not even halfway through the year. A lot of people were saying the same thing even about Hogwarts Legacy earlier this year, which, however you feel about that game, it's still way too early to even call something out like that. Again, it came out like, February of 2023, and people were saying that towards the end of February to March. It's like, come on now, slow your roll, like relax, right? It's way too early to make a call like that. And I still feel the same way about The Legend of Zelda. Granted, the game has gone 10s out of 10s, in a variety of different places between IGN. I think even Polygon scored it a 10. I'm pretty sure, even though I know Kotaku's mad at Nintendo right now with all their nonsense. We talked about that last episode. You guys can go check that out when you get a chance. Where, I'm pretty sure they're going to score that game pretty high, or at least whoever's reviewing it, I would hope so. But the point is that if I decide to skip over a game, it should be okay. It shouldn't be looked at as like such an egregious thing. It might affect some Nintendo fanboys out there or Nintendo fans that are crazy about the brand. But, when you're really looking at the scope of games and looking at how many games have come out over the course of this year thus far and the ones that are coming very soon, it should be like, okay, I think we're allowed one miss at some point to kind of like, take a little vacation, which isn't even really a vacation for me. It's like I got bigger games, well, not bigger games, but like big games coming within the next couple of weeks. For me, after Jedi Survivor, now that I finished with that and I did a video review on the channel, the next big releases for me are coming in June, which is like 3 big games that are huge AAA releases that a lot of people are looking forward to. The first one being that I've talked about already on Twitter, Street Fighter 6. Which I'm getting ready for this week, even when I'm recording this podcast, to do the open beta that's going to be happening on PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X, and PC. I'm going to jump on PlayStation 5 on PSN to play against people on Street Fighter 6, which should be a lot of fun. I'm going to definitely do a video about that. But the other big one, which comes out around the time of my birthday, is Final Fantasy 16. Now, for me personally, Again, for me personally, in my own perspective here, I feel like Final Fantasy 16 is going to be a contender for Game of the Year. I know a lot of people, like I said before, are already calling The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom as Game of the Year. I still think that's premature. And for me personally, one of the reasons why I was okay with skipping over Tears of the Kingdom and not so high up on it like everybody else was that I didn't really enjoy Breath of the Wild as much as other people. I thought that it was good and I respect it. And I even respect what Tears of the Kingdom is doing. But it was, I felt that at some point in my personal experience playing that game, I ended up getting bored. So eventually I'll come back to it. I'll get back to that game sometime down the line and stuff. But when I first saw Final Fantasy 16, I knew that was a game that I was eventually going to play. And all the timing and stuff just seems like it's going to work out great. But that's not the only other game that's coming out even in June besides Street Fighter 6 and Final Fantasy 16 that I was looking forward to or that I'm more willing to play and actually dive into at some point, given there's enough time. Diablo 4 was another one. If you guys remember, not too long ago, I did the preview for Diablo 4, which was the beta that was open to everybody. I did it both on my channel and I also did it on Clownfish TV's. I wrote up a whole editorial with my thoughts about the beta. So there's a lot of big games all happening within a close proximity of one another, because we have now mid-May, I want to say, towards the end of May, which is going to belong for a lot of people to Tears of the Kingdom. And then once June rolls around, the beginning of June and the middle of June, towards the end of June, is going to be for all these other games. And that's not even counting stuff that hasn't been announced yet for the fourth quarter of this year. There's a lot of big games that are possibly going to be coming out. I mean, there's even talk about Mortal Kombat 12 or Mortal Kombat 1, whatever this game is going to be called at some point, getting its full reveal. And then a lot of places that have been leaking out or reporting on leaks have been saying that that game's going to drop in September. Like, there's a lot of big games happening in 2023, which is a great problem to have. But it all goes back to my point is like, look, you don't have to play every single release out here in order to be considered credible or look at, that you don't know what's going on with the games industry or going on with gaming at the current moment. I feel like a lot of people are just so quick to throw that out there because you're either not feeling the same way or not looking at things the same way with some of their favorite games and some of their big releases. We go through this literally all the time. I'm pretty sure, and a lot of people might not want to admit it because they're too scared of the reactions online. I'm pretty sure there was a bunch of people that skipped over things like Elden Ring. And I've been vocal about a game like Elden Ring for the longest when that game was out and when that game was fresh. Even when it won Game of the Year, I still felt the way that I felt and stuff. But if I felt like I didn't have to, or I felt like I wasn't going to have enough time, I would have probably skipped over Elden Ring as well, simply because of my view on Souls games. It has nothing to do with the quality of the game itself or the content of the game itself. It has everything to do with all this other stuff outside of that. So I feel the same way with something like Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, at least in the current moment. Again, I'll get to it when I get to it at some point. Maybe, hopefully, fingers crossed, before the end of the year when we start actually talking about Game of the Year stuff. Because remember, the Game Awards are happening towards December. When we start talking about Game of the Year is when we really get into it. I want to say around October, November is usually the time frame where I feel like, okay, like that's when you could start talking about like, okay, what's the Game of the Year? Despite those like last minute, like last few month releases of like certain big games, which I don't think, or at least I don't foresee happening as much this year because a lot of the bigger ones came out towards the earlier half of the year right now at this point in time between Hogwarts Legacy, Jedi Survivor, Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, again, now coming up Final Fantasy 16, as well as also Street Fighter 6. Those are the games, or at least 5 games off the top of my head that I feel like are going to be the ones that are discussed in some way within the Game of the Year conversation. Now, whether certain games get more considered than others is anybody's guess. I do feel like there are certain games, like a game like Hogwarts Legacy, that are not going to be given a fair due once we start having these conversations, but there's still going to be enough to talk about like, okay, what's better and what's not as good and stuff, or at least which are the ones that we can start making tier lists towards the later half of the year. But again, I digress. The bigger conversation that I wanted to focus on was that you didn't have to play everything in order to like really get into the weeds of what's happening within games now. I feel like, there's a little bit of something for everybody at the current moment. We go through this all the time. It's like ebbs and flows within the games industry, whether you're a media person or a writer or a content creator that just does stuff on YouTube and Twitch. I feel like there's a lot of breathing room for a lot of different things where you don't have to feel like you have to scramble to play everything because there's so much to play right now, which is a great problem to have, like I said before. But anyway, those are just some spitfire thoughts I wanted to throw out there. Now that Tears of the Kingdom has come out, now that we still have other games that we're going to be looking forward to, myself as well looking forward to in some capacity, Let me know some of your thoughts about all this stuff and this entire discussion in the comment section down below. Do you feel like sometimes, even if you're not someone that's in YouTube or in like that realm and stuff, maybe amongst your friends, do you feel like there's a little bit of pressure in order to play like every single big game release that comes out? Maybe you have a couple friends or colleagues of yours that are like that in some way, even if it's not every single big game release. Maybe it's just all the big releases of a specific genre, like especially for shooters. I can only imagine between first person and third person shooters or action games that there's a lot of releases that happen throughout the year often that you feel like you have to dive into. I mean, you got to play Fortnite, you got to play Call of Duty, you got to play Halo, you got to play Redfall, you got to play Overwatch. I can imagine the scramble and the annoyance of it at times. You could chill out, you could relax, play the games that you want to play within that moment, and everything else can wait till later on. But tell me about your thoughts on all this stuff in the comment section down below. Leave a like on this video, on this podcast episode if you guys can. There's a whole playlist here on the channel for you guys to check out. You could definitely check out all the episodes I've uploaded to date, including the one where I talked about the Kotaku leaks with Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, the GQ Top 100 list not so long ago, which I felt like was a terrible list, but I talked about it for like an hour on all my thoughts about all the placements and the games that they included there. I'm still amazed that there was no Sega Genesis games on there. They didn't include one Sega Genesis game on there. No Sonic, no freaking arcade. Well, they had like one arcade game on there, which was Street Fighter 2, but no Pac-Man. None of I digress. I'm going to get too far ahead of myself. Go check out that episode because I talk all about that stuff. But even then, check out my review of Jedi Survivor, Star Wars Jedi Survivor, which is out right now on all platforms. Had so much to speak on with that game. It was a nice, fun review that I got to do. Despite my criticisms of the game, I still really enjoyed it very much so. But there's more games to look forward to. Look for new game reviews coming very soon within the coming weeks. Again, I'm going to be doing one for Street Fighter 6. And before then, since I got like 2 or so weeks prior to that game coming out, I'm probably going to tackle a classic game. I'm not sure which one yet, but I'll let everybody know on Twitter. Make sure you're following me on Twitter because that's the easiest and the quickest place you're going to get all the info about what games I'm playing, what reviews I'm tackling, and what other stuff I'm sharing about video games in general on there. That being said, I will talk to all of you guys again very soon. Peace out and stay epic, everybody.